All right, I have my Twitter cohort buddy Matt Viera with me, and really excited to be talking to him because we are actually getting him, ladies and gentlemen, right before he's about to head out on his mini retirement. Matt, are you excited about it?
Very much so. I leave on Sunday, and I am so looking forward to it. Yeah.
So you were tweeting about this, and me and Matt talked a couple times. We met in this social media cohort thing that we were, taking a mastermind on, and so we follow each other and interact with each other. And you started talking about this mini retirement thing, and you just, the timing of it was hilarious because I literally had just posted due to me and some friends that were arguing about what retirement really is nowadays, right? What is
Right.
the essence of what millennials and Gen Z are going to consider retirement? Because I think we can all agree we're not that interested in work until we're 70 years old, and then hopefully you get a good 10 to 15 years of golf and bingo and you're done, right? So one thing I wanted to talk to you about was, what is a mini retirement? Like, how do you frame it up? How do you do it? Like what are some key steps if somebody wants to do a mini retirement, how they can get there? But before we get into that, I want to, I'm interested to find out, like, what is it that you're doing right now? And then growing up, like, how did all these things kind of contribute to this mindset of, hey, I don't need to wait till I'm 70 to retire. I can do this in spurts while I'm young and healthy and can still travel. Like, tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up and then what you're doing now and how that all contributed to, taking these mini micro retirements.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot to unpack in there, and I'll try not to be long-winded. So please interrupt me if I do. I'm originally from New York City.
That would be the pot calling the kettle black, but I will do it. So,
All right, cool. I'm originally from New York City. I grew up, born and raised in the Bronx, New York. My family eventually moved into the suburbs of New Jersey, where I went to high school. I went to college for about a year and a half before I enlisted in the Army, in the U.S. Army. I was in the U.S. Army for 8 years, and
right.
and I'll circle back into that because that's an area of my life which really developed my passion for traveling overall.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
okay, so I left the army and ended up in Miami, Florida, where I finished undergraduate and law school. And then upon graduating from law school, I moved back to New York City. This was in 2008, right at the
Okay.
Great Recession,
Yep.
and I figured my odds of finding an entry level attorney position would be better in New York City as opposed to South Florida. And I was right. I eventually practiced law for 3 years. I was in litigation, handled a lot of cases in New York City courtrooms. But the thing with that was the amount of time that practicing attorneys usually work, 60 to 80 hours plus a week.
Right.
Um, Great Recession at the time. While I was able, I was fortunate enough to find jobs as an entry level attorney and develop my skills as a litigator. Benefits weren't great, salary wasn't that great. And what was more important to me at the time, even though I spent a lot of money becoming a lawyer, studying for the bar exam, was long-term benefits, i.e., retirement packages, health benefits, and vacation time. The last position that I had as an attorney, I think it was maybe I had a week of vacation a year, and it just wasn't enough for me. It just wasn't enough. So,
There's talk to me about this real quick because I graduated from college in 2008 as well, and I went
mhm,
into sales. And I had two friends that graduated from law school, and one of the things that really shocked me, it's like, growing up, you always hear, oh yeah, traditional ways to get rich, be a lawyer, be a doctor, be whatever, one of these things, and it's like that's not necessarily the case. It turns out when you really dive into those professions that we traditionally would consider, like, the big wealth makers, it's like it highly really depends on, number one, how good you are, and then number two, your specialization. So,
right.
talk to me a little bit about in general, just so people understand where you're coming from, so they're not like, oh well, you were an attorney, you were rolling in it, kind of a thing, and then they kind of disqualify this conversation. Give me some numbers. Like, what were you making coming out of law school as an attorney?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. Going back, I would say I was in the $50,000 to $60,000 a year range when I actually left practice,
Okay.
which isn't a lot. Now, I will say I'll
That's a
qualify this by
very
saying
average salary considering you went to school for an extra, what, 3 years for law school?
exactly right.
So
Graduated
that's
with
3 years to make the average salary. Now, granted, you have a lot more upside, but it's like at the time, you're really not doing particularly well compared to the rest of the country.
right, exactly. On top of that, you're looking at over $200,000 in student loans. I think I was
Right.
220 at the peak,
Oof.
and working
Okay.
to pay those down. A couple
Almost
that
as
with the
much as my wife. She was at 265.
oh gosh, man, I can't even imagine.
She went
And
to
then
BA school. So again, similar situation as you, an extra 3 years and, coming out, she
right,
was making a little bit more. I think she started off around 80, but I mean, still, that's a high, debt to income ratio.
sure, sure, and cost of living in New York City was
And
challenging.
that's not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't, it was significantly cheaper then than it is now.
Right.
But coming out and struggling with those student loans, it definitely wasn't easy. It was definitely a challenge. Now there are attorneys who come out and make a lot of money. I mean, you're talking north of 150,000 a year plus, depending on where you graduated from law school, like you said, your specialty, et cetera. And in retrospect, looking back, if I had stuck with it, if I was patient, not to say that I was impatient, but I was looking more towards a long term horizon. I'm sure I would have made that commanded that type of salary at the time. But for me, what was important was I needed more benefits. I needed more of a work life balance, and that's what I did. So I ended
So
up
how
leaving.
old were you when this was happening? And was this post military?
This was post-military, yeah.
Okay.
I was 10 years older than the average law school student. I graduated from law school 2008. I was 36 at the time. So,
Okay. So you did.
yes,
What did you do? Two tours of service.
I did one. Well, I was in a total of 8 years, and I re-enlisted 3 times. So
Okay.
every time I re-enlisted was 2 years at a time. I think maybe one 3-year enlistment
Got
before
it.
my final contract came up, and then I decided I was going to pursue educational endeavors.
Hmm.
And then living in Miami. I mean, it was just living in Miami one is just a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of people just go there for vacation. But to go there and go there as an undergraduate, and I was working at the time as a computer network engineer, and then decided to go to law school based on a friend's, a friend of a friend's recommendation that I should try it out, and I did it. And it was, even though I'm not practicing now, going to law school was one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, I'm privileged to call a lot of the people I went to law school with friends.
That's great.
Still part of my network, and I would say in about mid-August, a few of us are going to get together. So I mean, it's I would, if I had to do it all over again, I would totally do it all over again. It just made me a better person overall in so many different ways.
So let me ask you this real quick. This is one thing that I talk about is, my program is called the True Wealth Experience.
Right.
And the true wealth is the balance of the 4 types of wealth, which is time, health, financial, and social. And a big part of social wealth is your network. And that can be your personal network, but it can also be your professional network. When you say that, hey, I paid $220,000 for this, law degree and all this other stuff, but it was so worth it. I would do it again because of these relationships I came out with. Are you saying that just because it's like, man, I just found some friendships that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, which is absolutely worth something? Or are you also saying it from the capacity of like, there are going to be or already have been professional endeavors where these people have helped me out or have been part of what I'm doing or whatever the case is? What's making those relationships worth that price tag?
That's a really good question, one that I haven't thought of. I would say, the I mean, just one, that these are just generally overall just good people to know. You know what I mean? People that I've come in contact with that I probably would not have crossed paths with had I not gone to law school. However, if I ever decided to get back into practicing full time or part time or whatever the case may be, it's a network that I can tap into as well for ideas.
Okay.
And I feel like I wouldn't hesitate to go to any one of them. And I don't believe that any one of them would hesitate to help me out in any way that they can. professionally,
Okay.
with respect to advice or pointing me in the right direction or introducing me to people within their network, within their professional network as well. So,
That is such a I love that answer so much because a lot of times when I'm trying to sell people in I have a program, my second level program is called Momentum, and that is about wealth building activities. And in there, I specifically have a couple sections that are about how to network intentionally and how to build your professional network out. And one of the things I tell people in there is I'm like, listen, building a professional network, it's kind of like TV commercials. It's going to get out there and you don't really know how it's going to help you. You just know it's going to help you somehow. Right.
right.
And it's like, otherwise nobody would do TV ads, but the professional network, what you just said, it's exactly that. I have people that I maintain in my professional network. I don't know if I'm ever going to do business with them directly. I don't know if I'm ever going to, ask them for anything ever again, but I know that they're good people. I know they're hard workers. I know they'll probably continue to rise in the ranks wherever they are. And at minimum, I value their perspective. It's like that's enough of a justification for me to every 3 months take some time out on my calendar, block out 30 minutes, and I just have a list of people, that are in my professional, world or used to be in my professional world. And I just drop them a text and I just say, hey, man, how's it going? Hey, I just saw you got promoted. Hey, whatever, just saw this. How's your fourth quarter going? And literally, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just checking in. It's a quick conversation. We stay in touch. I'm just saying hello. And they remember that. And it's funny how future years, when you have no idea how somebody may be able to potentially help you, how that will make a difference. So I love that answer that you gave. It's exactly the justification that I think that people need to keep in mind when they're not just building, but maintaining a professional network.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Well, so please continue. So you're going through, you're 36, you've graduated, you've got the law degree now. So kind of fill in the gaps, give me some more of like what shaped your mentality around the idea of just living this contrarian life and not waiting till you're 70 to retire and, taking mini retirements along the way.
Yeah, sure. So when I decided to transition out of practicing law, I became a New York City public high school teacher, and I was in the classroom for 5 years.
Okay.
One of benefits working for the New York City Department of Education. I mean, it's an old fashioned job with an old fashioned pension, and there's a ton of benefits.
Absolutely.
Let me preface this by saying I would say, with the exception of practicing law, my entire professional career has been about public service, period.
And starting to see that trend. Absolutely.
Right. And going back to work for the city was another way for me to serve the public as well as give back to the community I grew up in. Of course, one of the benefits of being a teacher is having summers off.
Very true.
Right. So now we can circle back to that. But so I was in the classroom for 5 years, and I was able to leverage my knowledge, skills, and experience as an attorney to a legal administrative position now. So I'm no longer in the classroom, working in an office. I do legal compliance for the city, and I still, excuse me, I'm still able to maintain having summers off on my schedule, which is a huge, it's a huge plus for me. So some people
that position. Did you have that in mind, or did you take the position and you're like, oh, I'm not in the classroom, but this is a nice perk?
Good question. I think I probably would have taken the position even if I didn't have summers off, because there still is a lot of time off with holidays. There, the Easter break, the December break, the Christmas holidays. But having the summers off was definitely still a perk. And I think at this point, I don't think I would transition to a position, even though I have plenty of opportunities to within the organization, if I didn't have summers off, because that time off is really, really important to me. A lot of people job hop for money, shifting from one job to another, increasing their pay by 20%. For me, I mean, I would say that I'm better than the average person when it comes to personal finance and control of my finances. What's super important to me is just having time off because life is entirely too short.
Okay, so that is a very interesting point, okay, that you're making there. I want to dive in on that a little bit because
Sure.
basically what you're saying is that, hey, money's great, but what I value more than that is time wealth.
Yeah.
And I would argue that is probably that's the wealth that most people think about and do almost nothing about, in my personal opinion. I
It,
think that we accept how busy we get in our everyday lives just as, well, that's the way it is, because we've never stopped to think that, well, maybe we don't have to like do more all the time and constantly say and this and that and tack on, and we can actually start freeing up space for ourselves. So this is really interesting, the fact that you right out the gate are like, listen, money's great, I'm saving for my retirement, I've got, I'm doing all the public service stuff, the benefits are going to take care of themselves over the long term. But in the short term, I'm purposefully taking jobs that are going to pay me less than if I was to get back into like corporate law or something like that, because I want the time freedom. Why do you, so give me a little bit of a picture about you now. Like, how old are you right now? Do you have a family, wife, kids, partner, anything like that?
Yep.
And, why do you care so much about this?
Right. I'm 51 years old. I do not have a family. I do have a girlfriend. She and I have been together for over 10 years. All right.
Okay.
She's a teacher as well. She has a passion for travel just like I do. Is one of the first things that we discovered about each other and what we love about each other. Again, I mean, just going back to the time wealth is as you put it. I mean, there's nothing better than that. I mean, I'm going on my 12th summer off, and it never gets old. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a period of time where I don't have anything to worry about. I don't have to worry about meetings, emails, phone calls, whatever professional 9 to 5 career throws at you. It's these 2 months off where I can just live, wake up without an alarm clock, do whatever I want, let my days develop organically. Eventually it's going to end, and it always ends sooner than I like. But I mean, it's invaluable. I mean, there's no amount of money on the face of the planet that's going to buy you 1 second of time. You know what I mean? So you might as well make the most of it.
Man, I'm getting all hot and bothered here. That was straight sexy what he just said, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing better than time. I love it. We do not get enough people talking about that. So
Right.
So that's great. So wrap up a little bit again, just your mindsets around it. I love everything that you did. Anything last second that you want to say on that, and then I want to hear your perspective on some functional things that it's like, this is how I plan for it, because
Sure.
teachers don't make a lot of money, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, to take these mini retirements, you've got great benefits. The long term is going to be taken care of for you, and that's great. But it's like in the short term, it's like you still have to intentionally plan on that. And with all this time off that you get, like you mentioned with summer and Christmas break and whatever the case is that teachers get, and this is exactly why we should pay teachers less, because they don't work that much. I'm kidding. I have so many teacher friends. I had to say that. They're going to get so mad at me because I said that.
You're going to start a riot, man.
Oh my God, the riot is going to come. I had to plug it in. I love you guys. I love my teachers. You should all get paid way more. Sorry, guys.
Agreed. As much as it's
Oh, across the board, everywhere. It's just, we won't even get into it. That's another thing, but absolutely should be paid more. But anyway, I just had to throw that one in for all my teacher friends. But no, so it's like, again, you're not rolling around in cash. You're not pulling in 150,000 a year. You're still living in a high cost of living area. So it's like, you probably just don't have a ton of money that's just lying around. You probably have to intentionally plan for this. So walk me through a little bit of like, what are some of the functional steps? You're leaving next week. What have you done in the past month or year or whatever to prepare for this 2-month blissful mini retirement that you have?
Yeah. Right. All right. So first, a mini retirement. What is it? I mean, it's just basically.
Yeah, let's define that.
Yeah, it's just basically an extended vacation. Okay, I first came across the concept of the mini retirement by reading Tim Ferriss's book, The 4 Hour Work Week,
Yep, it's
and
a
if
great one.
you yeah, and I highly recommend it. It really changed my mindset around a lot of things. Okay, now when my girlfriend and I first started dating, we had a lot of time off. We both have a passion for travel, and we did travel. However, when we did travel, it was like a week here, visiting family, visiting in-laws, going to an all-inclusive resort, going
Mhm.
to a hotel in Mexico. Um, Typical vacation stuff that you, me, anybody else, would do traditionally. That's traditional vacation.
So,
I
real
read
quick,
the
I'm gonna put your feet to the fire, and
Sure.
I'm gonna make you draw a line in the sand. When does a vacation what duration of time does it take for a vacation to become a mini retirement?
I would say a month. I would say at least a
Okay,
month.
a month.
However, and here's the other thing though. Here's the other thing with respect to the difference between a vacation and a mini retirement, at
Okay.
least in my opinion. Vacations typically, you're off for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, or whatever the case may be. And people tend to pack an agenda on a vacation, visit as
Mm.
many things as possible, do as many things as possible, see as many people as possible, whatever the case may be. So much so that when they're done with the vacation, they get back home, they need a day or two just to transition from vacation mode to work mode
I know
because
exactly
they're
what you're talking about. Yep.
right, because they're tired, and it certainly happened to me. Now in the 4 hour work week, Tim Ferriss's concept was more along the lines of going somewhere for 1 to 6 months. So I would say a good baseline would be 1 month, and of course, it's completely understandable that a lot of people don't have that time off to take a month off straight from work. So I would encourage people to just take as much time as they can and do something completely different. Don't go to Disney World. Don't visit the in-laws. Don't visit the parents. Do something you always wanted to do. I mean, to make it easy, if you put up a map on a wall and throw a dart at it, just buy a plane
Mm.
ticket and go to that place.
Wandering.
Um,
I love wandering.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. The more foreign the location, the better. Now, before so I read the 4 hour work week, and I was like, all right, I told my girlfriend Jocelyn, I was like, listen, we have all this time off. Why are we going to like Miami for a week and driving? Why don't we just go to Europe for a month? Let's just do it. Now, the reason why I picked Europe is because when I was in the army, my first duty station was in Germany. I lived in Germany for two
Mm.
years. I absolutely love Europe, and in the service, just like any other 9 to 5, people take vacations and they want to go see family, visit family, whatever the case may be. Same thing in the service. Soldiers would take their leave for whatever 30 days or whatever, and like, what are you going to do? Well, I'm just going to go home and visit my family. My friends and I, we would rent a car and we would drive to Spain. We would drive to Switzerland. We would drive
Mm.
to Paris. We would go see different parts of Germany. I mean, you're in like this beautiful continent. I mean, try to see as much as possible.
And public transit there, with the UK and
Super
everything
easy.
set up, it's fantastic. So it makes
Yes.
getting around pretty easy.
Super, super easy. Yeah, renting a car, taking a bus, taking transit. I mean, it was so easy. I grew up as a skier, as an avid skier, and
Oh,
for me,
nice.
it was
What's the best skiing in Europe in your opinion?
Switzerland. Anywhere in Switzerland,
I
I would
felt
say,
like that was gonna be the answer. I wanna go
yeah,
there so bad in
yeah.
snowboard.
Lake Lucerne, man. Go to Lake Lucerne. Not only
Lake
is the
Lucerne.
skiing there phenomenal, the nightlife is just off the chain. I mean, it's
Okay,
been
all right.
it's,
I'm putting that one on the list, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Lake Lucerne, Switzerland was phenomenal. Yeah, just skiing the Alps. Germany. The Alps in Germany are awesome, but Switzerland was definitely
I've heard it's
one of
the
my
best
favorite.
in the world, so it doesn't
Yeah.
shock me that that was what you picked.
Right, right, right. So, yeah, so I loved Europe, and I hadn't been back since my girlfriend and I took our first mini retirement.
Mm.
And we went to a couple of different areas. Now, to answer your question, setting it up financially. All right. So in the past, one of the things that we did was we both use credit card reward points for
Oh,
buying airline
okay.
tickets. So that's the first hack, you want to call it, trick, tip, whatever the case may be. That's what we use. We use credit card reward points to buy airline tickets. And the first time we went was in 2018.
Is there a
The
card in your opinion that you're using right now? Because obviously these things change over time. But as of 2023, is there a card that you've used for a while that you would recommend to people who are interested in travel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are probably some cards better than the ones that I use, but the ones that I've been using since I would say 2017 is Chase Sapphire Reserve
Okay.
and Chase Freedom Unlimited. So, and then you can combine points from both of those cards into into one pool, and then
Nice.
use those points to buy tickets.
Okay.
So if I were to buy the tickets using my points, then Jocelyn can transfer over whatever points that she has, for her share of the tickets as well. This way, we try to keep everything as even as possible.
And that's a
Um,
good tip because a lot of those things, like I tend to recommend if I'm giving blanket advice, I'm like, listen, I tell people, I'm like, just get cash back. Like, just get a cash back card, whatever. But I will say this, if you are somebody and it's like, I love travel, this is a part of what I do, and I do it on a regular basis, or I'm planning big trips or whatever. One of the nice things is not just, the point or reward system that comes with those, but it's the perks that come
right.
with those as well. You got to read up on all those perks because I'm sure you could talk about it better than I could. It's like there's a lot of things that are just as good as cash that are going to come with that and make traveling just that much more of an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely read the card member agreement and understand the reward program. I mean, it's just a big deal. And the reason why I think with Chase Sapphire Reserve was at the time they offered a massive. I think it was like 100,000 points if you spent X amount of money in
Oh,
three
yeah.
months or something.
Sign-on bonuses can be a
Right,
huge plus.
right. I don't think they offer that anymore. I'm not sure, but I mean, I've been happy with both of those cards. That for me, it's really no reason to change.
Okay. That's
Um,
good to know.
you know, yeah, I mean, of course, if I dove a little deeper into it, I'm sure I could find a card that it may offer better benefits. But if it's not broken, don't fix it, and
Yep.
happy with it. So,
All right.
so
So that's
airline
good. So
tickets,
you spend everything on the credit card throughout the year. You rack up those points in
right?
anticipation of the trip. So what happens next?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so planning. I guess the typical planning of a mini retirement. So I tell you specifically from this particular trip that's coming up. So I mean, so basically, what we do is we try to, we know we want to go to Europe, and we know
How
some
far in
places have
advance do you plan this?
probably. I think we started planning in March or April. So you want to do it maybe 4 to 6 months ahead of time,
Okay.
really,
Good
just
time
to
frame.
just to get right get an idea of what prices are like and whatnot, especially airfare.
Yeah.
But and then there's some like flying. All right, so let me preface this by saying like the sky's the limit. If to anybody who wants to take a mini retirement, there's certainly places that are cheaper to go to than Europe. It's just that
Right.
what
Southeast
we
Asia
enjoy
or something.
exactly. South America, Ecuador. You can get a beach in a hut on the beach in Nicaragua for pennies on the dollar, whatever the case may be. We just enjoy Europe because it's more of a laid back way of life. The ease of travel, as you mentioned earlier, and the cuisine is just good.
Hey, but you know
And
what? I like the fact that you're not again. This is your modus operandi, right? You're not
right,
letting money dictate what you're going to do on your time off. You're going where you want to go.
right,
So
exactly,
that's an interesting correlation. It's like just like in your career, it's not money focused. Well, with your very precious vacations or mini retirements, I mean, that you're looking forward to, you have again stuck to your guns and been like, I'm not going to go to the cheapest place just because my dollar will get further. I'm going to go where I'm going to have the most fun and the place that
right,
I know that I'm going to enjoy the most. So
sure.
I love the fact that the philosophy there continues to be a part of every single aspect of this.
Yeah, right. And that, it's not to say that I'll, for every minute retirement that I take, I'll always only go to Europe. I'm certain I'll explore different places. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but yeah, this is for us for now. This is like you said, our MO. So I guess so when we start planning, and I think we did this each time, is we try to look for the cheapest place to fly into. Typically, it's Geneva, Paris, maybe somewhere, maybe Madrid. But we try to figure out where we're flying into, and then where we want to go. We both love Spain. We spent a month in Barcelona last summer, which was absolutely
Oh, that had to be
it
nice.
was yeah, it was really really cool. And we were debating on whether we should go back to Spain. Not maybe spend a week in Barcelona and maybe check out a different area. But we were watching YouTube videos about European cities, and two that really stuck out to us was the first was Budapest,
Oh, interesting.
um,
Okay.
and Vienna. So we're like, you know what? Because we spent the first 2 minute retirements that we had, we spent a week in a different city, which is
Mm.
cool. You're seeing, you're going to 4 or 5 different cities, but you're losing a day of travel between each city. staying in hotels. By the time you get to a new city, you got to explore and figure out what you like to eat and, cool places to hang
So
out.
are you like doing this true wanderer style? Are you like, listen, we're booking our ticket, we know where we're going to land, and then after that, we're figuring it out? Do you have the first like week of your mini vacation planned out, and then you just kind of see where the wind takes you?
Mm-mm.
Like, how much of it are you actually like is structured versus true wandering?
No, it's definitely not wandering, but I wouldn't say that it's too structured either.
Okay.
So right, so we picked Vienna, so we'll go 2 weeks in Vienna, and then we'll do 2 weeks in Budapest, and those are the two places that we're going to. Now, once we get there, no agenda at all. Maybe
Got
we'll go
it.
see some
Okay.
touristy stuff. Maybe we'll do it. We'll take a day trip somewhere, whatever the case may be. But the whole idea behind it is just wake up and let the day develop organically. And some of the
I
best
like
days
that.
that yeah, some of the best days that I've had going on vacations, in Europe, are the days where we just woke up, we went out, we had breakfast, picked a direction. All right, we're just gonna walk in this direction. We just walked in that direction. We saw a cafe or a bar that we like. We stopped, had a drink, keep moving in that direction. Just let the day develop organically until we're ready to eat dinner, or we're ready to come back to the accommodation that we're staying at.
This I think is such an important point because in today's you are this may be a little bit of a weird correlation, but I'm going to bring it together. You are giving the opportunity for space to happen, right? You have created space versus packing in tour here, activity here, dinner at this place. And I think in life, specifically in like first worlds and stuff like that, we don't know what it's like to have space anymore. We definitely don't know what it's like to be bored, because the second that we're bored, what do? We just pick up our phones and we just plant ourselves in front of a screen. And they're talking about this even in children nowadays, teachers. And I don't know if you're, noticing this trend, but especially, they're seeing it in, younger children as they're just constantly watching like short form videos and different things and, seeing all this stuff. They just don't get surprised anymore. They don't have the outbursts of like, excitement. Everything's just a little more dull because there is a combination between that and then parents not letting them be bored. And I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and that's something I'm trying to be careful of in my parenting. I have 3 kids and 6 and younger. And it's like, if I see them getting bored, or they come to me and they're like, Dad, I'm bored. I want to be like, okay, well, let's go do this. Let's color. Let's ride the bike. Let's pick an activity
Hmm.
versus just saying, okay, go be bored. I used to be bored all the time back in the 90s,
Yeah,
It's like that's when your imagination sets in. That's what it's like. Not everything needs to be directed. We don't know what it's like in our life anymore to have space to
right.
just let things happen and see where they go from there. So I love that because I think in adult life, that is such an important thing. And it goes back again to you valuing time. You're not valuing activities and doing things necessarily. You're just evaluating space for your life.
Right.
So I think
Okay.
I think that is a massive lesson that people could learn from, because I totally agree with you. There's been a handful of I always tell people, I'm like, I have 2 types of vacations. I have vacations where I'm just relaxing, sitting around eating, space, is planned, and I will wander and talk to the locals, figure out the best places to eat. That's a vacation. Then I have adventures. And adventures is when I'm going somewhere and everything's pretty much planned. We're skiing
Mm.
3 days a week. We're, scuba diving off this coral reef. We've got the boat trip plan, yada, yada, whatever the case is. So it's like, I understand having the 2 differences. And some of the best days ever were when I was just at this place and didn't know what I was doing next. So
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people listening, that's something that they really should try on their next vacation whenever they're going somewhere. Even if you're like my wife and you're somebody who just needs an agenda for everything, one thing my wife is good at doing is, we love to joke about this, but she plans her flex time.
Oh, really?
So she will actually, in the agenda, we talk about this all the time. When we were dating, we had first met, maybe been together for like a month or two. Her family's from Wisconsin. They came down to Florida. And one of the things she did, I go over to her apartment. We're talking about the weekend, and she gives me a written out agenda. And in the agenda is like flex time that is scheduled in. And I'm like,
No.
Wow. I was like, you're so organized with your agenda. You put in flex time. This is amazing. So,
Interesting.
but yeah, I want to encourage people, give it a shot. If you're that person who has to list everything out, schedule a day to just not do anything and see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, exactly. Just go outside, go get yourself a good breakfast. Definitely start off with a good breakfast, coffee, whatever the case may be. Then
Okay,
just
so
pick a direction
I got a
and
question. I
walk.
got a question. If my wife was right here, she'd be having a mini panic attack because she'd be like, "Oh my gosh, not having an agenda. I don't know what I'm going to do next after breakfast. Like, I don't know what to do." What is a functional piece of advice that you could give somebody who's like, "I'm a planner. I can't do that." Like, what is it that you're looking for your next thing? You wake up in the morning, you eat breakfast. What are you looking for when you're trying to figure out just what to do next? Do you just literally pick a street, walk down it, and find something interesting? Are you talking to locals for a cool spot? What do you do?
I mean, me personally, it's on those days that I mentioned earlier, it's just pretty much we pick a direction and just walk. So it's
Okay.
just my girl, yeah, it's just my girlfriend and me. We're bonding, we're having a conversation. Like I said, we come across a cafe or a bar. Hey, this looks pretty cool. Let's have a seat, order a drink, order a beer, get a snack, whatever the case may be. Our bonding, we're just continually bonding, continuing having that conversation, getting lost in conversation. Then we get up, we keep moving in the same direction. If we do come across like a museum or a restaurant, we can stop or we don't have to. And we, find the next bar, the next cafe. Advice for someone who needs an agenda, I would say, I mean, maybe plan out the first 4 or 5 hours of actually doing nothing and maybe just walking around to try to find places that you may want to, check out over the next couple of days, but and again, Jocelyn, my girlfriend, she'll have something completely different to say because she's more of like, I do want to see these touristy places. I do
Mm.
want to have a little bit more of a structure to the day. I'm more like, listen, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything touristy. I don't want to be around people. I live in New York City, but we make it work. I mean, we find that happy medium,
That's good.
and and it works for both of us. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if we do nothing, there's going to be a day where we're going to do something that she wants to do. And if there's a day that she really wants to do something and something's really important for her, I'll go along with it because I know at the end of the day, we're going to go out to a phenomenal restaurant, have a great meal and a bottle of wine. And, it's, those are the memories that we're making together overall. So, yeah.
When you travel and you're doing this, what do you tend to value more? Do you value from an experiential perspective? Do you value like food and drinks? Do you value more like uh, you know, I can't think of anything right now, like excursions. Like what type of thing do you like going to museums? Like what are some of your favorite things to do?
Yeah, I mean, so again, it's different between Jocelyn and I. So for me personally, it's more of just me personally, I love a good bar. I love just a good place to hang out. Cafe where I can maybe sit and read for a while. Parks are always good.
Mm.
Great long. I really just enjoy getting to a place and going for a walk and discovering what's available to do. And then, over the next couple of days, like, hey, do you remember we saw this restaurant? Why don't we go check this place out? Remember this bar that we saw the other day? Why don't we go check that place out? Or if we found a place that we really liked, hey, let's go back to this place because we enjoyed it some more, but let's try something a little bit different. Going to Vienna, I mean, something that I think I would want to do there is maybe see an opera or what do you call it, an orchestra. I think
Oh yeah,
they're pretty good there. I've never been to anything like that before, but from what I understand, those are pretty awesome things to attend. In
absolutely.
Vienna. So I'm certainly open to that. I mean, I live in New York City. I mean, there's Lincoln Center,
Yeah, true.
and it's just something that am not something that I'm not open to or something that I it's not important to me, so to speak. But do it in a place like Vienna is just I'm sure it'll be a phenomenal experience, and if not, then at least I tried it.
I I
So
love it, man. I love
yeah,
being open to just whatever comes your way. So
right.
give me the credit card was good. I think this has been really exciting. With the last couple minutes we have left, give me some functional money saving advice. How do you kind of prepare financially for this trip? You said you start
Oh,
planning 4 to 6 months in advance. Obviously, if you want to do like excursions or something, it's like that can be a little difficult if you don't know exactly what they are because you're just showing up. So it's like if you don't have everything planned and you can't go, okay, helicopter trips over the jungle are, $600 a person and this costs that much. How do you plan financially to make sure that you don't get there and then kind of run out of money halfway through because you're having such a good time?
Right. So that's a really good question. All right. So talked about airline tickets. So that's, basically zero cost because it's on the credit card. So the zero, like, out of pocket cost right then and there. Last year we stayed at Airbnbs. Airbnbs are a
Hmm.
great way to save money on food, in particular with breakfast and lunch. We always go out to dinner, but it's a great way to save food. Wake up in the morning, have a cup of coffee. The other reason why we like Airbnbs is the Airbnb that we stayed at in Barcelona had a balcony. So, and being able to sit out on the balcony, have morning coffee or drinks in the evening, as opposed to actually going out and spending money at a bar, you can get a
So you're
relatively good.
bringing in food or like ordering in. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, or buying a couple of bottles of wine, putting in the refrigerator in an
Okay.
Airbnb.
Okay. I was wondering what you meant by you were saving food by staying in an Airbnb. So that makes
Right,
sense.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So we'll definitely do. We'll definitely go grocery shopping as opposed to going out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'll
And it makes
probably
sense because you're going to be there for 2, 3 weeks.
right.
It's not like you're like just getting in and going. So it's like, yeah, I can make breakfast if I want to spend my money on a nicer dinner.
Right, exactly. And then, because when we first started, we were always staying in hotel rooms and it's difficult to do that, so we're always buying breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we, I'm sure that there are days where we will do that. But having the Airbnb gives you the option. It's always about having the option.
Okay. It's a good way
Um,
to think
Air,
about that.
Airbnbs may run a little bit more expensive than hotels, I guess, depending on what you're looking for. So overall, our cost for an Airbnb for the month is about $2,800. But
Okay.
so $1,400 for each city. However, they're very comfortable, a lot more open space, has the balcony, has the kitchen, has the coffee maker. And if it's a torrential downpour throughout the day, if we need to hang out in the Airbnb, we hang out in the Airbnb. Food, we never kept a budget, or I never kept a budget with respect to daily expenses. This year, what I'm going to try is $50 a day for everything, excursions, whatever the case may be. Not that we're going to take a lot of excursions, but primarily food, because food can get expensive. There's some places that are cheaper than others, some places that are more expensive. Anywhere outside of New York City, in my opinion, is always a bargain for me.
Yeah, no
Um,
joke. Everybody
um,
from New York City and California has been moving to Florida, and they're like, I traded in my little 400 square foot apartment, and now I can buy a 2,500 square foot house down here in Florida. This is great.
yeah, all right. So, and then what was the other? I'm trying to think. So, food, Airbnbs, and transportation is relatively inexpensive in any European cities, and if you don't take public
Yeah, that's a
transportation, you
really
could
good
just,
point.
you
Knowing
know,
where you're going locally, you're right. Transportation's cheap.
right. So, all right. So to prepare, we use the credit card rewards points. Like I said, we're both financially good with money, so we saved. So for me personally, I have a travel fund where that's all the spending money that I'll have once we actually get there, and then
How do
we
you
also sit.
do the travel fund? Are you this cash envelope person? Do you just have it automated in savings? Do you have a
Yeah.
separate account that you manually put it in? How do you actually do that?
Yeah, it's a separate account that I actually have, and it's a separate account and high yield savings account, which is really
Ooh, okay.
important.
It's a HISA.
Yeah,
I like that.
the separate account that I will actually, with every paycheck, put anywhere from $50 to $200 into that particular account, and I do not touch it for anything. And I still have to transfer the money to my checking account now, so I can use it during the trip. But I just keep it in there.
Okay.
Let the account generate interest, and then that's it. But I'm pretty diligent about that, about shifting the money into there. Of course, if you automate it, it'd definitely be easier. But again, life happens, so you may have an expense that you may need the money for, which is why I try to range from $50 to $200 with every paycheck, or I
Okay.
should say every month.
Every
two
month.
hundred
Okay.
dollars, yeah, at least, yeah, $200 every month. So yeah, separate from that, and then yeah, I mean, just and then the same thing with the Airbnbs. Now with the Airbnbs, what I do use is I have a separate credit card where I actually get it's through my investment brokerage account.
Mm.
where any reservations I make on Airbnb, 2.5% of the final price of the Airbnb is reinvested into my brokerage account.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting. Okay, so
so
again, we're playing the rewards game. I like
right,
this.
exactly, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not, it's you know 2.5% on $2,800. I mean, may not seem like a lot now, but again, that's money that I won't touch for probably the next decade. So I'll let the compounding work.
Don't cheapen that. Okay, two
Right,
and a half percent. I tell people all the time. I'm like, what's the difference between 1% and 2%? And everybody's like 1%. I'm like, wrong. It's 100%.
right,
And
yeah,
it's like when you think about everything in terms of percentages instead of amounts, it is a completely different wealth building experience. All of a sudden, you will look at the world differently. It's like, oh, okay, this gallon of milk was $4. Well, now it's $5. Okay, it didn't go up $1; it went up 25%. So
yeah,
it's like when you start looking at the world in terms of percentages, it just makes such a big difference. So the fact that you're looking at that, going, well, 2.5 percentage points is what I'm getting on this. Over, you take that, maybe you're just earning an extra percentage point or 1.5% off of a standard rewards that you would get with, like, a regular credit card or something. That 1.5% compounding over the next 20 years, that's going to be tens of thousands, if not hundreds
yeah,
of thousands of dollars. So
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I don't touch that money. That's an investment account, and I probably won't for the next decade or so.
Okay. That's
But
great.
I mean, yeah, but but it's just something that makes me feel better. With spending the money.
Okay.
Plus,
That's really important. That's really important. That's great.
right. And overall, my for both of us, for me personally, the overall expense for this particular month of in Europe is going to come out to about $2,850.
Okay.
And a lot of people may scoff at that. It's $3,000. You do so much more with that money.
You can do a lot less.
Fine, exactly. But the thing, my personal opinion, my value is that one of the best investments that you can make is an investment in a life experience. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
totally agree. Love it.
Especially somewhere outside of your comfort zone, somewhere out, just an experience, a new place that's different than your current neighborhood.
I mean, I honestly think, I mean, $3,000 for a month, man. I think you're doing really good with that. I mean, I've spent $3,000 in a weekend on places. I mean, you can eat
Yeah,
that up quick between playing
that's
flight
a
hotels for going somewhere for a weekend.
that's
So
Disney World. That's Disney World.
that's a. I was trying to get to. Didn't work out this year, but I was trying to plan a trip to Breckenridge to go skiing earlier this year. It's going to be like $3,600. I mean, lift tickets alone were
Wow,
insane.
man.
They were like $750 for 3 days. So I think you're really doing a good job getting more bang for your buck, and looking at it that way, because you're like, well, some people may go $3,000. You could do a lot more with that. I'm sitting here going, wow, you could do a ton less than that. So I'm impressed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and it's I mean, it's what I enjoy doing. It's what I like, and I can't wait to get out there and I encourage anyone, even if you haven't been to Europe, just go. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not much different than the States. I mean, it's just a more laid back way of life. I mean, it's just everything's calm. There's no rush to do things. I mean, people ride their bikes. There's people are friendly. Language barrier is virtually nil, and there's just so much to see and do and experience. And I've never ever had a bad experience with Europe. You know,
Well, I love it, man. This has been so much fun. Just being able to talk about this. I love your mindset. I love the
Thank you.
way that have grown up thinking differently. About what wealth is to you. And one of the things I love to tell people, it's like, listen, it's like, Matt's not worth millions of dollars, okay? And you are still out here living the life that you want, and you're happy and you're having a good time and you're enjoying things. You're working hard, but you're also enjoying things, and you're not
Right.
waiting until you're 75 years old to start doing that. So
Yeah.
that's a message I try to get across, because I tell people one of the things that I teach is the importance of having a lifestyle strategy. The
Yeah.
day and age of just, you go to work, you stay at the same job for 40 years, they take care of you, you have a pension, and a decent retirement because you had company stock and they paid you a fair wage compared to living expenses. It's over. That's not the reality for people that are, younger millennials, Gen Z. We're not going to have that. Like, the average housing expenditure is about 40% of people's income, and it should be about 30. I
Correct.
just posted today, car payments are at an all-time high. A
Yeah.
new, I think it was something like, the stat that I saw. It was like 8% of new cars are listed under $30,000 compared to pre-pandemic. That was like 38%. So there's just been this drastic shift. And the crazy thing is people keep buying them. They don't go to the used car market, which, there's still plenty of stuff out there as well. So
Yeah.
it's just so important. It's like you can live the life that you want and you can enjoy it now. You just have to have a plan. You just have to be intentional about it. You can't just float through life, because there's too many ways for companies to get your money. There's too many ways for you to just lose $100, $200 a month. And I mean, the amount of people that I've done hundreds, maybe thousands at this point, of budget reviews in my lifetime with people. I have done people from making $500,000 a year all the way down to the ones making $30,000 a year. Never once have I not been able to find money that is being completely wasted that they weren't able to save. So, it's one of those things that was one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you, because I was like, he's not going to come in here and be like, yeah, I make $1 million and I take a month off. It's like, nobody's going to listen to this podcast and be inspired by that. The fact that you're doing this on a teacher's salary, you're intentional, you have a plan, and you're making it happen. And this isn't like the first time you've done it. You've done this for what, 10 years, you said?
No, this will be my fourth time. This is since 2018.
Yeah. Okay. So you've done this 4 years in a row. This is a scientific process for you at this point. You're not just getting lucky with it.
Yeah, exactly. And and to your point, before we end, how you were saying that a shift in mindset, whatever the case may be, the whole point of the mini retirement, you call it a vacation, call it a mini retirement, what have you. The whole point of it, and this is in Tim Ferriss's book. It's really to re-examine your life. You know what I mean? To help you shift the mindset, to really figure out what it is that you want to do for the rest of your days. Because life's too short. Your life's entirely too short. If you're unhappy with your job, if you're unhappy with a job, try to find something better, or start the side hustle, whatever the case may be. But it's really, the mini retirement is really to take that time for yourself and re-examine what's important to you, so you can come up with a plan to do some of the things that you want to do before it's too late. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's good. That's good. I love that. Yeah. Taking some intentional time to just be with yourself in a situation where you're not under pressure.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that's when a lot of people do start to think about it. It's like, okay, I just got fired from my job. Now what do I want to do? Well, that's not really it's hard to be honest with yourself about what you want to do when you can't pay rent next month.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your situation and frame of mind is going to be a lot healthier than somebody who's trying to figure that out then. What is one last, it can be about mini retirements, it can be about money in general, but what's a money tip in general that you would love to throw out to just everybody that's out there listening to this today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I made a lot of mistakes. I spent a lot of money. I was, just like most people, I would, what started me off on a right path financially was tracking my expenses, like really seeing where I was spending my money. And if I was to give anybody advice, it would be start there, start tracking your expenses. And I've been doing it since January 1 of 2021. And that has been the biggest eye opener for me, is seeing how I'm spending my money. Because, if I'm spending $500 going out to eat in New York City, I could spend half that, save the other half so I can finance my mini retirement, So.
I couldn't say it any better. It's literally the first step. There's the godfather of process improvement once said, what gets measured gets improved. Well, guess what? What gets tracked, same thing, gets improved. The easiest and honestly one of the first things you have to do if you want to start to build wealth and live the life you want is exactly what you just said. You have to know where you are. You have to track your expenses, because guess what? If you don't control your money, somebody else is.
No, no, absolutely.
It's just as simple as
Absolutely.
that. So I love what you said. I say this so much, I get sick of it because it still shows today 70% of people still don't have a budget. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. Easiest thing. There's not anything that is any simpler that can cause a greater benefit than just having a stupid budget. If you don't like the word budget because you think it doesn't mean having fun anymore, then call it an intentional spending plan and
Yeah.
intentionally spend on your fun. So I think it's great, man. I love it. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on. I've loved the conversation and can't wait to see some. Are you going to be tweeting during the time? Are you going to send out some pictures of some places you're going to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely do that. Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
great. I'm going to be following along the journey and living vicariously through you. I'm getting a 5-day vacation. I'm in the middle of building something right now, so unfortunately, there's no month-long vacations for me, but or mini retirements. But we're going to get about 4 days off here next week. So love to see where you're going, dude.
Well, enjoy it as much as you can.
All right, Matt. All right, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Stephen.